Hey guys, what's up? It's Charles Float here, tuning in live from Thailand for the first ever private. Oh, let me shut this door. For the first ever private PressWhizz webinar. Now, there's quite a few people that are still going to be joining over the next few minutes and stuff, so I'm not going to quite jump into the main presentation yet. So I'm going to give you a bit of a background on why I made this presentation and what it's for, who it's for, and why you should listen to the entire thing. So we've been dealing with a lot of clients that have been having a ton of success at PressWhizz when they listen to us, right? So when we've been getting support messages, booked in strategy calls, all these kind of things, we've been getting some amazing feedback. However, I would say around 2 to 5% of the time, when people are currently using the marketplace for themselves, we are getting some not so great feedback. And when we have then gone and reviewed said links, usually it's not our fault. It's usually, unfortunately, to do with how people are picking anchor texts, how people are vetting the sites in the first place, picking completely irrelevant sites to their brand and niche, and actually potentially mismanaging and misspending their budget, because we know that there's other sites or even other sites on the marketplace which have niche edits available that have got pages that would be a lot better for that spend. So I wanted to make sure that this presentation today is going to give you a ton of takeaways to make sure that now and in all future link buys, it doesn't just have to be through PressWhizz, but we'd love it for you to be through PressWhizz, right? That you are going to get the maximum ROI out of every single link that you buy or build from now on. So welcome to the webinar. We've got nearly 30 people joining us so far. We had over 150 signups, and we've got a load more people who have signed up for the recording after the fact. So welcome to the webinar. It's how to safely buy links and scale without ever getting flagged. And as a side note there, by Google algorithm and algorithm updates, right? So in this presentation, welcome to the webinar. What you are going to learn today, first of all, is the current state of link building, the ins and outs of the industry, how Google is looking at links, what's working, what's not, the signals you should be relying on, the signals you shouldn't be relying on, the anti-spam measures Google are taking, and all sorts of stuff. I catch up on the basics just because I feel like every so often it's a great idea to make sure that you are all up to date and in tune with at least the most core basic information around link building. And sometimes it's forgotten, or potentially because there's so many different SEO influencers and blogs and news organizations and forums and posts and all this information flowing around SEO, it can get misconstrued, or it can be different advice depending on who you are listening to. So I'm going to personally say that this is the right advice. Some other people in the industry might not fully agree with that, but it works for us and it works for all of our clients every single time. I'm going to talk about entity sacking. Obviously, it won't be a Charles Float link building presentation without entity sacking, right? If you've been following me for any amount of time, you will know that if you are in any sort of competitive or YML niche, you will need to be putting in your entity sacking link. So we're going to be covering that in detail, as well as giving a link to the video at the end. Anchor text optimization. Again, I'm going to be giving some tips, tricks around how to actually be making your anchors as natural as possible. Some of the downfalls that people are actually getting trapped by Googling, and that is what is actually causing some of your links to be neutralized or turn toxic even, which is a really devastating result of trying to build links. Diversification, the important types of diversification, the links you'll need, the signals you'll need, and why they're so important inside Google. Orphan links, and why it's so important not to build orphan and isolated pages, and why Google has been becoming so reliant on these anti-orphan and anti-isolation page style tactics as a source of neutralizing links. And making sure, again, we're not neutralizing, we're not turning links toxic is going to be a massive ROI saver for us, right? If we are neutralizing links, then we're not getting any ROI. If we're turning links toxic, we're going to get a negative ROI. So we want to make sure that every single signal that we're building is positive. And last but not least, I'm going to be going through Google's anti-spam detection patterns, which basically means the patterns that Google look for in your link profile and from your website and from your entity to stop the growth from your links and potentially, again, neutralize or turn those links toxic on you. And again, it can be a fact that you can build so many neutral links that it's an overwhelming amount of spam signal and that tanks your website. It's not the fact that any of those links are inherently toxic. It's just that you built so many mediocre signals that Google doesn't think you're a good enough site to rank for anymore. So what is the current state of link building? Well, as has been the case for the last several years now, authority is king. The higher domain ranking, domain authority metrics that you can get, generally speaking, the better, right? The higher authority signals are going to be passed through that link to you. Yes, there are a lot of nuances in that statement. However, it is a true consensus in SEO now amongst pretty much everybody in SEO that the higher authority you have, the more likely you are to rank, and thus also the more likely you are to pass on rank as well. Trust signals, EAT, and entity stacking. Again, if you are in any YMYL niche, so that is your money, your life, think finance, think health insurance, think healthcare, think hospitals, think poker, think anything that is potentially significantly damaging to people's lives if Google sends them to the wrong page. That's where trust signals, building up your entity, getting your entity trusted and validated as a real company and business inside of Google is going to be really, really important. And the EAT framework that Google has, I just throw it in there because it's another form of saying trust signals, but trust signals have been around a lot longer than the EAT framework has. And there's so many misconstrued statements around the EAT framework and so many recommendations. If you Google EAT SEO guide right now, the majority of those guides have nothing to do with the actual EAT framework inside Google. The majority of EAT is external, off page. It's not to do with anything on your website. And the majority of those guides will tell you that you need to upgrade your about page and your author bios and add terms and conditions and privacy policies and all of this nonsense. That in itself can be beneficial to a website, but it is not actually the core of EAT or trust signals inside of Google. And we have validated that not only in testing, but with the leaks from Google's algorithm and from the DOJ testimony that is more so come out recently. Parasite pages, right? So a lot of people have been talking to me about parasite pages recently, and unfortunately, they don't fully understand that you shouldn't really be linking very aggressive black hat parasite pages directly to your money site. That's generally not the best of ideas. And if you are going to be doing so, then I would always recommend to at least pretend to be some sort of affiliate. So make some sort of redirect script, set up an affiliate for your e-commerce store, whatever it is you're trying to actually promote at the end of the day, and make it look like it's an affiliate doing that and building that link, not yourself. It's just a way to kind of distract Google. And if any potential manual reviewers come across it, they'll know that this is an affiliate URL, generally not the main website doing it yourself, even though you are doing it yourselves, right? International and non-English are a completely different algorithm. Even if you're dealing with English in Thailand, so international English SERPs, you will be dealing with a completely different algorithm, a completely different set of ranking pages. That is generally because Google doesn't want to be spending significant amounts of processing power, significant amounts of resources at all at the moment. They want to be sending them all towards the AI efforts, but realistically, they definitely don't want to be spending it in geos which are hardly profitable for them. And Thailand, all of these kind of geos make a few $100 million a year, which to all of us sounds like a hell of a lot of money, but to Google, they literally wipe their ass with it, unfortunately, right? They can print that per day in the US and UK markets. AI scaling is now getting to the point where you not only need to be wary of Google's AI itself, right? Be wary of AI overviews and things like that, taking your clicks away from you, stealing info query clicks, all of that kind of things, especially as publishers. But you also need to now be potentially scared or reliant or testing yourselves on AI scaling inside of your own business. We have a furniture factory inside of my family business for anybody who's that's been following me for a long time will know that. We've now started getting some of our factory staff using some of the AI, and especially some of the designers that come up with product designs, so brand new sofa designs or cushion designs or something like that. They're now modeling them using AI style references and all sorts of design inquiries and things like that. It's really leveling up their progress already. And if that's coming out on the factory floor and you guys aren't using it as SEOs and things, then I think everybody's a little bit behind, but we need to be making sure that we're at least at the pinnacle of what the current AI is capable of in terms of things like ChatGPT and things of Claude, right? Setting up extremely complicated AI agent systems isn't going to be for everybody, but using it to at least make yourselves more efficient in content scaling and link outreach and all of these kind of things is going to be really, really important. And again, neutralization over toxicity. Google is just preferring to neutralize links over making them toxic these days. Generally speaking, you won't build a link at your website and that website's going to tank anymore, right? You will build links at your site and those links do not do anything. You won't see an increased rank, you won't see a decreased rank. That is going to be 99% of the case if you're not doing proper vetting, proper creation, anti-spam detections, right? All sorts of things like that. A lot of link campaigns, a lot of link marketplace, a lot of link vendors aren't doing the substantial work in terms of making sure and protecting the ROI of their customers. But toxicity still hurts individual pages and it hurts them hard. So if you do go into those 1% of links that are toxic, yes, it's not likely going to tank your entire website, but it's likely going to tank that individual page. And that's generally why we recommend linking to supporting content over money pages, because if you do ever build a toxic link or a link becomes toxic, it's going to unfortunately tank that page. And of course, supporting pages getting tanked, it's okay. Money pages getting tanked, that's risking your bottom line of revenue. So I know I talk fast. I go through a lot of information very, very quickly. I hope you guys are still with me, enjoying the presentation so far. Let me give you a real lesson on the basics now. So let me give you a real lesson on how I would perceive the basics in SEO for link building right now. So of course, we're going to speak about entity stacking once again. Entity stacking is strategically linking branded profiles, reference sites, citations, all sorts of things across trusted and authoritative platforms to get Google to recognize or reinforce your entity. Generally speaking, at the moment, most people are going to be getting them to recognize their entity in the first place because they haven't built enough of these pages. Jason Barnard, who literally wrote the book on entity stacking, he recommends 30 to 60 different types of these trusted, indexed, consensus matched profiles, references, or citations before Google will actually reference that entity and validate it into existence in the knowledge base. Reinforcing it is just adding on additional pages, consensus, and specifically, generally, it's adding positive engagement around the entity, positive reviews, positive interviews, things like that, not having significant negative press. And if you do for a brand, ORM is a big moneymaker for a lot of agencies. So, want to see a perfect entity and supporting profile? It's the boys Steak, right? It's the guys, shout out to Peter Machinkovich, one of the boys in SEO, right? They have done a hell of a lot of work to achieve this. Not only is it going to be referencing that it's a gambling company, which of course it is, it's the exact correct categorization of the website. It's sourcing the external description from Wikipedia. Again, the #1 source of information in Google's knowledge graph is Wikipedia, accounting for 70% plus of information in Google's knowledge graph right now. E.g., getting a Wikipedia page is still one of the most valuable things you can do for your brand or persons inside of a company. And then in their own words, from their about page comes the actual source of information from Stake. They've also clearly got their site, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, or X for the X boys out there, linked as well. And they've got their reviews from the web, which go into specific reviews, again, not just from Trustpilot, reviews.io, all those kind of websites. It's actually getting written reviews from affiliates and sourcing them into there as well. So this is a perfect example of coming up with a profile. Of course, they get a ton of press and everything else that contribute massively to it. But if you just want to look at how they're setting up social profiles, citations, reference sites, things like that, they've done a perfect job of doing this. They go and edit everything so every consensus point is matched across the board with Stake. It's a masterclass in entity stacking SEO. You can also watch my full video on entity stacking. Just go to YouTube and search entity stacking. It should be first or second. Unfortunately, we're losing a little bit here to Osborne, but the video is a little bit older, nearly 2 years older, I believe, at this point. But the information I still stand by, and all of the recommended websites to build links from, I still stand by. Bear in mind that PressWhizz's managed service can include entity stacking for you. So if you're willing to spend $5K a month with us, we will do a lot of this link building efforts for you for free. So the next part I want to talk about is authority versus relevancy. And I've already said it, authority is king, right? But the most impossible, amazing situation you can ever have is this middle spot here, which is DR99 and an exact match page. Generally speaking, this is an impossible thing to do. The only real way you're going to be able to do this is if you get a niche relevant article on the BBC or something like that to link to you. And again, even then, it's not really fully an exact match because the domain should be an exact match as well. And you're never, ever going to get an exact match DR99 domain name. So this red point here is the impossible but optimal spot. So we want to be somewhere along this graph. And generally speaking, the higher exact match relevancy we get, the lower DR it needs to be. And the less relevant we get, the higher DR it needs to be. And these lines are both the exact kind of formatting. So it's over the threshold is generally the point where you want to be doing. You don't want to be under either of these thresholds. You want to have some point over this middle point in either direction, or the middle, right? So authority wins though, right? Unfortunately, I've got to say it again over and over and over because Google just keep programming this into their algorithm. It doesn't matter about intent. It doesn't matter about content. It doesn't matter about the authors. It just matters about the authority behind the website, behind the publication, behind the company, behind the domain. And there's no better way to show you this than Forbes Advisor, right? The guys that keep on getting away with it, who are printing upwards of $10 to $20 million per month, ranking a Forbes subfolder. They're, of course, ranking currently for best health insurance. And if you notice anything else about the surrounding intent match of the SERP, they are the only site in the top 5 that is a blog post or content piece. All of the other websites are healthcare providers, healthcare services, and then you have peoplekeep.com, which is another blog post, again, DR74 or so, with a ton of words going through health insurance companies, that has got some of the best links in the world that you can get to a page. And I'm pretty sure that is Google, again, testing different intent matching, because that's giving health insurance companies rather than the best health insurance, which would be an individual program. So that's Google, again, kind of testing intent matching there. But the intent of this SERP should be healthcare providers, right? The best healthcare service, the best healthcare provider. Unfortunately, it's giving us Forbes Advisor every time. And if you go back to 2020, it's 6 out of the top 10 were this style of article. And hilariously, Forbes was never in this up, right? So a lot of people who are saying, oh, well, Forbes is relevant to insurance. Well, they weren't in insurance 4 or 5 years ago, right? But suddenly, Advisor comes along, they're making millions and millions of dollars. They're the only one left ranking out of all of these different sites. And they're the only one that's really getting any traffic and being able to print money from these niches at the moment. And again, that's just because authority wins, right? So now we need to talk about target selection. So we need to talk about money pages versus supporting pages versus home pages. Which type of pages should you be building links at to get the most return on investment, to get the highest level of ROI for your businesses? Well, money pages, again, we need to analyze the SERP. The one thing I see from a lot of SEOs, from a lot of providers, a lot of link builders, is immediately prioritizing building exact match anchor text links at the money pages without any level of analysis into the SERP of existing competitors. And I know for a fact that there is a ton of e-commerce SERPs out there that have category level pages, which be treated as your money pages, which potentially have tens or hundreds of thousands of searches per month on those category pages. And every one of those category pages in the SERP has 0 to 3 referring domains, which in my mind means that we hardly want to be link building to those money pages directly at all, because do competitors even have referring domains? If the average competitor doesn't have referring domains built directly to their money pages, then we don't want to either, because we're again trying to match consensus, not only in the SERP around content, but also on the link graph, because Google has baked consensus into the algorithm so much over the last couple of years. I don't necessarily think it's that good of a thing, right? You can imagine that if the previous scientific consensus around a topic suddenly changes overnight, Google baking consensus into the algorithm isn't going to surface that new information unless it's reliant on freshness to do so. And a lot of the times, this, unfortunately, is more powerful than freshness. Authority is more powerful than freshness. Consensus is more powerful than freshness, right? Even in news, consensus is still more powerful in news than freshness. So direct links pose risk. Pages hit are a negative ROI, right? Like I was already saying, if you do get a toxic link and it's pointing directly at your money page and that money page tanks, then you have built not only a negative ROI into your page, but that page has no longer got the ability to make money for your brand. And that is potentially killer to some clients, potentially killer to your businesses. And the recovery stage sometimes takes a lot more than just removing that link. So we want to generally retain the most powerful, the most relevant, and the safest links to be link building directly to money pages. And again, it should always be based on analysis of the SERP to see if they should be built at in the first place. Supporting pages. So supporting pages generally are easy to distribute link equity around with multiple internal links. I just, again, recommend staying within your topical authority and topical clustering. I've seen a lot of people who have multi-niche websites, especially in things like iGaming, where on specific money pages that they build a lot of links at, they're then linking to every single other, or sorry, on specific supporting pages that they have built a lot of links at, they're then internally linking to multiple different types of topics. In iGaming, as an example, they're linking to slots, casino, cryptocurrency casinos, horse racing, betting on whatever, sports betting, all these kind of things, right? And they are generally different clusters, different niches, different topics. And you don't want to have such a diverse, different number of topically clustered different internal links going out to your pages, because you dilute the amount of equity that you're getting. If you have got a specific topical cluster that links within that specific or topical cluster, and you can build a link graph that is, again, matching the consensus toward those pages, that is the most ideal way to build links in 2025. And again, it doesn't matter if these pages get hit, because toxic links don't pass on toxic penalties to other pages. So it's only passed directly to the page it's hit. It's not going to pass on a penalty to the rest of the website unless you have an overwhelming number of them. And it's definitely not going to pass the penalty or the page level anti-rank penalty to the internally linked pages from that supporting piece of content. So you can imagine that the piece of supporting content, the piece of supporting pages, they are buffers towards your money pages, and they can be used a lot more aggressively with your link building efforts and things like that. Just, again, be overly cautious when you're building too many aggressive links towards one domain name. Home pages. These are the foundation of your trust signals, the foundation of your site-wide authority. That means, in general, if you have a higher domain level, homepage level, root level authority, then the entirety of your website will increase in rank. The entirety of your pages, all of your pages, should theoretically increase in rank and go up across the SERP. Obviously, there is some nuance in that competitors could also increase rank in the same time and potentially at a higher rate than you do. So your pages could still be kind of fighting against the competitors over there. However, in general, the consensus will be that your rank on across your entire website will increase if you build quality trust signal based link building at your homepage. If unsure, point your links here, right? If you are 100% sure if a page is too relevant, is too authoritative enough to go to a piece of supporting content or to a money page, it doesn't quite have the right relevancy, it doesn't have quite the right anchor text, that kind of thing. Just stick it at the homepage and do it as a quote, do it as an interview, do it as something like that, that can merge the two websites and also power up your entity stacking at the same time. So anchor text fundamentals, right? Making sure that every time we're going through, we're not triggering anti-spam penalties here, because it's one of the easiest ways to do so, because Google analyzes anchor texts intensively to see about anti-spam, anti-paid links, all that kind of stuff. However, in my SEO style, we ignore ratios, we ignore percentages, we ignore all of that scientific based stuff. Everything is nuanced, everything is relative, and we are going to be making sure that we are keeping phrasing natural. What does that mean? A lot of people don't take into account the outside of their anchor text selections. That means they don't really take into account the surrounding text, the paragraph it's in, the blog article it's in, all of that kind of stuff, right? When in my mind, the surrounding context, the surrounding words, all of that kind of thing actually play quite a pivotal role in Google's ability to transfer equity from that page to your page. And you'll get some other additional beneficial keyword related signals from those surrounding text, from the surrounding text and surrounding context as well. So I always try and make sure that at least that sentence, at least that paragraph that the link is contained inside of has some level of oversight and human editing to make sure that it is part of the campaign, to make sure that the phrasing is natural, the surrounding context is formatted in a way that is going to be the most beneficial to the end page, the target page that we're trying to increase the rank of, and again, the entire website. Again, this is kind of because people don't take into consideration a lot of the target pages, the links they're getting from, all this kind of stuff beyond the metrics and beyond the domain level relevancy and things like that. I try and give myself as many opportunities ahead of myself before we ever build a single link. What does that mean? That means that we're going to be going and vetting a few thousand different opportunities to see maybe 300, 400, 500 different websites that we can be building links from. And we're going to see which ones have guest posts and which ones have niche edits. From those niche edits, if it's a really detailed big campaign, we're going to go through all of those sites, maybe the 200 different sites for niche edits, and we're going to pull the top 5, top 10, top 25 pages based on referring domains and links from those sites. That then gives us a huge amount of pages, a huge amount of domains that we can then go and start assigning competitive anchor texts and competitive pages to from the top. That means the most competitive, the most competitive anchor text, the most competitive page that you have for that target URL, that is going to be on the most authoritative page inside of your link building efforts and your internal linking efforts as well. So how do we stop Google's anti-spam detection? And how do we always play it safe so that Google never actually clocks on that we are potentially manipulating links, paid links, black hat tactics, parasite SEO, all of this kind of stuff that they're actively trying to stop, albeit not doing a great job, to be very honest, right? However, we still want to have some level of self-protection, revenue protection, ROI protection in place. So I want to start with a little game, okay? And this is the first time I'm going to open chat because I already see a few questions going off in chat. But I'm going to very, very quickly ask, what do you see wrong in this sheet, okay? And you can look at anything. You can look at the domain names, the target URLs, the anchor text, the price, the delete status, anything. I just want you to try and come up with anything that you see that is wrong inside of this sheet. It can be a word, 2 words, whatever. If you can put it in chat, that would be even better. But I'll give you guys just a minute or so in your head to come up with what you see wrong in this sheet, right? This is a very standard link building sheet that a lot of SEOs, a lot of people would probably recognize, especially if they were doing links for different clients, right? Okay, I've given everyone enough time. All exact match anchors. Close, right? Very, very close. Yes and no, okay? It is the anchors, but it's not the exact match anchors. even though that would be a sign, right? That was a bit of a red herring, actually. It's actually the capitalization inside of the anchor text. And this is something that basically nobody in SEO, I think, has talked about. And it's one of the things that I have seen routinely get caught in link building campaigns. And one of the primary ways Google is very, very efficiently determining who's an SEO and who's a normal user, who's manipulating rank and who's naturally, organically building it, right? That's because if you were to naturally include a lot of these words inside of your content, inside of your articles, which one looks more natural, right? Does it look more natural with stake is a new cryptocurrency online casino, or stake is a new cryptocurrency online casino, right? This is the default human natural writing format. The fact that we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, an overwhelming number of anchor texts, right, that had capitalization in this. If this was all going to one website, and bear in mind it was all different niches and stuff, because I was trying to kind of give you as many outs as possible. This would be complete over optimization, not even just from the exact match level, but because of the capitalization level. There is no way in hell that a brand new website, or even a website in general, 7 of the 9 links that they get in a week have capitalized letters. And it is one of the ways Google is finding out SEOs and differentiating us between them, right? So which one looks more natural to you? I think it's pretty obvious, right, guys? Does this also apply to internal links? Not really. Internal linking and link building are quite different. It's just the same analysis or the same theory is around kind of competitive to authoritative link building for anchor text. That's the same for internal linking, but everything else is pretty much different because the systems evaluating anchor text and the systems externally evaluating anchor text and the systems internally evaluating anchor text are actually 2 different things, right? T-star, Q-star, and a bunch of other systems that are running inside Google. So stop building orphan links, stop building links in isolation. Make sure that your page isn't in a separate paid category. We've had a few publishers try and do it inside of PressWhizz. If you ever see it, immediately send it to us on email. We will have it moved to the correct category and give you a discounted refund or just give you a credit for the next link. It's only happened a couple of times, but unfortunately it happens routinely in SEO. They will put it in / sponsored / paid, something like that. It's completely outside of any normal subfolder, and Google is discounting those links pretty heavily, especially if they're sponsored tags routinely in that subfolder. However, the orphan link itself is a page that has no internal linking. It has no external signals whatsoever, and is sometimes in its own separated category so that it doesn't even have internal link equity from the other real pages on the website. You can also deal with isolated links, which are basically links that never get links from the home page or, page 9 of some archive somewhere, which doesn't have an equity either, and then has no internal links, no external signals, nothing else to boost it. It just has some level of linking from like a category page or something like that. And bear in mind, if you're not indexing the category page or no indexing category pages, then they don't even count, right? So they're a massive waste of budget, and especially the higher authority you get, the worse that ROI becomes, right? If you don't have internal linking, you don't have social signals, you don't have tier 2s, you don't have social shares, you don't have anything to power its external or internal signals to not make it an orphan or isolated link, then Google is almost automatically neutralizing those links right now. The next tip I have is rank your damn guest posts, right? Social shares, internal and external links are only one part of the puzzle when it comes to actually improving and powering up those guest posts. In general, giving your guest posts the ability to rank for keywords, the ability to get traffic, the ability to have signals from Google itself in terms of direct rank, page rank, all that kind of thing, signals inside of Google is so much more beneficial and so much more likely to not have neutralized links and so much more likely to have positive signals than if you're just doing some random page. And there for a long time, let me just have a sip of my tea. Need to keep up the Britishness. For a long time, we've had people use a technique that I think was first developed by Greg Morrison of OMG Machines, which was reverse sink or swim, which is essentially the technique of, if you have a page for best online casino, then I'm going to create a blog post, guest post for best online casino. And it's going to directly transfer rank through exact match signals to my page. I think niche edits on ranking posts and pages that have direct exact match, that's totally fine, right? And encouraged. Trying to get links on pages that have exact match keywords to your keywords that are in the top 100 of Google, that's fantastic. Trying to create new guest posts en masse that are all around the same topic as your page is a really unnatural signal to Google, right? And too many people try to do this. So we try to come up with clustered topics that are at least some way related to the key pages that we are actually trying to rank in the first place. And just remember that we are always constantly trying to get the most ROI, the most equity out of our guest posts, niche edits, and any links that we are building directly to our website. And the more we get, the better we get at getting the most ROI out of our links, the higher our campaigns will fly. So it also offsets anti-spam systems, especially when building tier 2s, because if you have got a bunch of ranking guest posts actually indexed in the SERP, getting traffic, that kind of thing, number one, manual reviewers are a lot more inclined to say it was natural because those pages do have actual equity inside of Google. And number two, the traffic and their rankings and their niche relevancy inside of a similar topical cluster is going to offset anti-spam detection systems and more likely increase that, that potential to give a positive link, especially with tier 2s or tiered boosting, as we call it, inside of PressWhizz. So diversification. Most people in SEO think diversification just means pillar links, just means getting some no-follow links, and that's good to go. Unfortunately, it's not really the case. Diversification is the different types of links that you're building at your website. You don't just want guest posts from WordPress blogs directly pointed at your site. If you build 200 WordPress blog homepage links, all that kind of thing, you're going to be running into serious issues. Making sure that we're diversifying the types of links that we're getting. So a press release once in a while, guest posts, niche edits, infographic links, image links, all sorts of things to make sure that we're not just primarily going down one individual source. And bear in mind, if you are doing client SEO, if there is additional activities going on inside of that business, which there often is, that is also generating real links. So events, charities, news, press releases, anything like that, that is internally additionally generating links for that business in a real capacity, then those links are also offsetting the link type that you're building as well. So just try and make sure that you're taking those into consideration. Geo-local diversification as well. So that means potentially, let's say you're in the Netherlands, then you might want a few links from Belgium because they also speak Dutch in Belgium, right? You might want a few links from Germany and Sweden because they're such close neighbors that the businesses probably have some sort of correlation going on with a supplier or a manufacturer, a customer just over that border, if there really is a border in Europe, you know. But geolocal diversification can be really important. And again, it's one of those things that stops anti-spam detection systems, especially if you're getting completely irrelevant geolocal links continuously for your UK website, right? That's also an anti-spam trigger. Make meta tag diversification as well. So no follow, do follow, sponsored, etc., whatever tags Google are coming up with in the future, UGC, right? All of these meta tags, making sure that you're not just doing do follow links, not just doing no follow links, all of that kind of thing. Again, contributes to diversification and spam. CMS and platform. So again, not just all WordPress blogs, not just all default WordPress themes, making sure that the platforms are genuinely different. Make sure you're getting, especially in e-commerce, you're getting links from Shopify blogs or Magento blogs, whatever it is as well. Not just primarily through one CMS, through one platform that Google can routinely pick up on. Anchor text, obviously, making sure that your anchor text is diverse enough. And we've already kind of gone through that we should try and prioritize naturally phrased surrounding text and offset exact and partial match for the highest, most powerful, most relevant links. Content type as well. So that can mean, like I just said, if you're trying to do the reverse link swim method every single time, then that's not content type diversification. We want to have interviews with the CEO. We want to have press on the latest products. We want to have how the success of the business, case studies, anything like that, right? Again, a lot of that is also reinforcing your entity stacking if you're building those links on authoritative publications as well. Relevancy as well. So you don't necessarily want 100% relevancy because you're not then necessarily going to be getting that pure authority as well. So you still want the highest authority links. You still want some slightly different topics, some slightly different stuff going on, and you don't want to be completely linear with your relevancy. And then randomized link velocity, okay? So a lot of people in general, and we have a big problem with this because PressWhizz delivers links so quickly. Our average link delivery time right now is 18 to 36 hours. So that means that if you order a link, on average, that link is going to be there tomorrow, right? The same time tomorrow. That means that if you are going to be ordering 7, 14, 21, any of these number of links at a website, and especially if they're going to similar pages or the exact same page, all of those links going live at the same time can be really quite problematic. And we've had clients come back and say, we need these links to slow down, right? You're building them too fast, please. Right? That's the level that we're adding. And we're trying to add a drip feeding system built into the marketplace very, very shortly. However, one of the hardest things to give advice on is link velocity, because what is your existing link profile? How many pages do you have? How many pages are you publishing? How many pages are you building links at? What type of links are you building? Are you building pillar links in tandem? Is your entity recognized? Do you have trusted signals? How big is your website? How authoritative? How old is it? How old is the domain name? What niche it is in? What geolocal is it? There's so many different contributing factors to link velocity that it is really, really hard to give any sort of linear advice that can be routinely followed in any way. But I'm going to try and give you some. So the first one would be, do not try and count pillar links and entity stacking links to an extent, right? Common sense and intuition generally wins out. If you're building 100 citations, 50 social profiles, 100 reference websites, all in the same day, couple of days, few days, that kind of, and then premium indexing them, then you should count that, right? That's too much. That's too aggressive. That's too over the top. However, when you're building links, you should also know how many links you're building, how many different pages you're building links at, what types of links are you building, what's their risk to reward ratio. All of these things are going to come into play. And in general, common sense and intuition, the longer you're in SEO, the longer you build links, the longer you've had to be on campaigns, the better you're going to get at this. That's the unfortunate reality of link velocity. It's such a nuanced job, and it's such a nuanced specific thing that it's really difficult to give linear advice. It's easier to give specific advice, right? So I would always just say, analyze your current position, ask yourself all these questions, and then try and build a common sense velocity. If you've got 100 pages and you're publishing a new blog post every week, then maybe look at only doing 5 links a week, right? Not including the entity stacking, not including the other stuff, because that would match a realistic, natural publishing frequency and size and depth of your current website. So how to vet sites, right? Number one, we need to look at what they're currently publishing. That means, do they have a bunch of random articles recently, right? Is the main topic about home and garden, and the most recent article is crypto casinos, solar panels, and electric batteries for God knows what, right? That is a prime example of a site you do not want to go near. There needs to be some level of niche relevance if a website is about that. If it's a news website, or if it's a geolocal publication about an area and it's got different articles about that area, different articles about the news, current events, trend things, that's totally fine. If it's a niche specific authority site, authority blog, things like that, then it should have niche relevant articles predominantly on that site. Do they have bad topics, right? So the easiest one to think of is things like Viagra, unregulated casinos, diet pills, anything like that. Generally speaking, those bad topics, bad niche neighborhoods, we want to try and stay away from unless we're in them too, right? Generally speaking, if they're willing to publish Viagra content and Viagra blog posts on their site, we probably don't want to be linking it to our nanny's knitting blog, right? What is the publishing frequency? So essentially, how many blog posts, how many pages are they creating every single day? And sometimes, and a lot of the time, the homepage doesn't tell the full picture. You need to try and figure out what the actual publishing frequency of the site is. If they're publishing 10, 20, 100 articles per day, then your new article has a lot lower chance of link equity being transferred over to your domain name than if they're publishing one per day, right? How relevant are the current posts? Are they relevant enough to you? Are they relevant enough to the site? And that means the current posts, as in the current blog post they're currently promoting, publishing. Have they gone completely off topic? How in depth are they? Is the average blog post 400 words that is spun and copied from a BBC article, right? Is it a 3,500 word mega post where the author behind the website has spent 6 hours going in depth with every single fact, detail, and description and caption everything he can? Perfect. We're willing to pay a few $100s, if not more, for him to do the exact same on our blog post, right? And do they rank immediately? Now, this is one that's really, really important. If you can go and find the last 10, 20 blog posts that they have put up on their website, especially if some of them are over 72 hours old and none of those blog posts are ranking, that's a pretty bad sign. None of them have any keywords at all, not even branded search keywords that are appearing in Ahrefs. That's a pretty bad sign for the equity to be transferred again from your post. The next thing you need to be looking at is Wayback Archive. Was it always the former website, right? Was it previously another blog? Was it previously another website? Have they just stuck a casino blog on top of it to sell links off of it, but it was formerly a pet daycare website, right? All of these kind of things are making sure that Google has maintained the same relevancy, the same authority, the same history as the previous website, and it's always consistently been that previous website. Did it have a parking page? Did it have a GoDaddy page, a Cedo page, something like that on it for a while, and then somebody picked it up and built a site or rebuilt the old Wayback site or something along those lines? Again, it could have lost equity. It could have lost the ability to transfer equity over to your website. Did it ever redirect? Now, this is a big one. Did it potentially ever redirect to spam? Was it ever hacked? Did it ever have any signals that could be potentially really toxic and damaging to your site if it was? Did it have Chinese or Indonesian spam? These are the two most prolific sites I'm currently seeing in Wayback Archive. Generally speaking, the Indonesian casino market is the biggest international market outside of the West at the moment, because China so heavily regulates and things as well. And the ability that you can make and print money off that niche is unbelievable. If it's got either of these two languages plastered all over Wayback Archive, then run a mile. And then finally, we want to be trying to look at Ahrefs and SEMrush, right? What's the current traffic and link trajectory? Is it natural? Has it had huge spikes, huge drops, huge lows all over the place? Is it currently here, currently there? What is the current trajectory of the traffic, the referring domains, the links? Are they faking traffic, right? Go through, click on their organic keywords. The number 2 most common ways that backlink sellers fake traffic is by having login pages. So they'll create a blog post. It's for Disney Plus login page, right? That post will rank position 36, but because it has 10 million searches a month for people searching Disney Plus login, Ahrefs is going to say that page has 38,000 searches per month. It doesn't have 38,000 visits, but not even close, right? It's just abusing Ahrefs calculation system inside. The other one is software error codes. So anytime you have like a Windows error code or anything, there's constantly people Googling it. And if you can create pages talking about that error code for software, again, you'll be able to fake getting traffic. So those are the 2 biggest ones, but there are a load of ways that people are faking traffic. Generally speaking, you have to look at the keywords inside of Ahrefs and see if they're relevant enough as well. Which the next one is the traffic relevant to you, right? I was just speaking to a casino client previously, and Dusan, who's the CEO of us, we were just creating a document, a link strategy document, and we'd chosen about 20 different websites that we're going to build links from, or the team had, and they wanted me to just verify the sites. 19 amazing. One of them, unfortunately, if you actually went through and looked at the translations of the keywords in this language to English, was talking about some very serious, hardcore adult stuff. And we definitely did not want that being transferred or built over to our website. So just going on that additional bit of depth, and especially if you're working in niches where you don't potentially understand the language even, then making your translating those keywords gives you an even better idea. Is the DR and authority powered by redirects? So is the site itself got a bunch of, 13, 14, 15 different domains redirecting to it? And as soon as they've sold 200 different blog posts, they're going to move that over to another site and do the exact same thing on a new domain. That's another common way that people are selling links, especially in outreach, and just moving the authority to new domains to sell new guest posts, potentially even to the same person every single time. Are they manipulating metrics, right? Are they making fake DR? Is the UR 97 for the homepage or something ridiculous, right? But the actual DR is like 44, right? Anything like that, you want to be making sure that you're double checking that those metrics are real if you are only, especially if you are only validating based on metrics. So mass AI content. Does every post have obvious AI images, right? This is a very obvious one on the right-hand side over here for a casino review blog in the UK. All of those images are quite clearly immediately identifiable as AI. And all of those articles, when you run them through Originality, are 100% AI generated as well. Is the content mass AI generated? So all the is the average blog post that they're currently publishing AI generated, which means it's not going to have nearly as much equity or ranking power, and you're going to have a lot more lower quality signals en masse for your site. Does it have internal linking, right? Do most blog posts, do most pages actually use internal linking on the website to link back to other blog posts to show you that there's a real human connecting the content together? Does it use schema or microdata? Is it just a normal blog post? Does it have article schema? Does it have FAQ schema? Does it have organization schema? Anything that, again, would tell you that a human created and verified this website entity. And is it formatted properly? Is it just a bunch of text with no headers, no anything, and it's just all over the place, and the font's really small in some areas and it's bolded in random other areas? That's terrible. You want it nicely formatted, neatly formatted, so that Google can understand and structure the website and thinks that all the pages are quality pages. Pages versus traffic. So this is how many pages that a site has indexed versus how much traffic does it have, right? So let's say you have 2,000 traffic, but you have 2,000 blog posts on the website. That's probably going to be a no-go, because one Google visit per blog post is not the ideal, right? We want to be having some level of traffic to the amount of publishing frequency and the amount of content that we have. The more traffic that you have, or sorry, the more blog posts that you have versus the less traffic you have, the more likely that the individual page quality score of that website is going to be lower. And again, 10K traffic with 19 posts, hell yes, right? We want to be going for that all day long. And then the final one is offer versus pricing. So this is, what are you actually going to get for your money? What is my ROI? This should be the number one question you're asking on when you're buying links. What is the risk versus reward? Is this potentially going to turn into a toxic link? Because I don't really know. The owner is pretty sketchy. He's just sold a link to a casino site, but I'm a random construction company, right? We want to be making sure that the risk that we're taking with buying this link is still offset by the reward that we're going to be getting from actually the ranking signals that we'll be getting from that link. Do I have better, cheaper options? The more data, the better as well, right? Making sure that you have more sites, more options, more sellers, everything, the more data, the better. Is the pricing okay for this industry? Geo, niche, language. Potentially, is there other ways we could get it cheaper for this niche, this language, this niche, this geo? What do I get out of the offer? Is it one link? Is it 1,000 words? Do I get internal links? Is this niche allowed even, you know, for gambling, for casino, for CBD? Is there tiered links included? You need to see what the actual offer entails, right? Potentially, if it's giving you 10 different links from one page, you could be powering up your entity stacking as well. If you're only getting one, which is the average, one or two, you're not going to be able to do that kind of entity level building as well for your social profiles and everything else. Thank you for watching. That is everything in the presentation for you today. That is hopefully a complete masterclass in all of the information that I can kind of give you around link building, the consensus that Google has, the signals that they're looking for, how to vet links, the current state of the industry, and some tips and tricks for you out there. If you have got any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat below. We've already got a bunch of questions that I'm going to go through in the next couple of minutes. I'm just going to go take a quick break to get a fresh cup of water, and I'll be back in 3 minutes for the live Q&A. Make sure to ask your questions in the chat below. Thank you, guys. Okay. We've got a bunch of questions to go through. So let me just start jumping into the live Q&A. I know we've all got stuff to be doing, but I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation and the webinar so far. So the very, very first question. Hi, Charles. What are the core steps you take in order to evaluate a link? Again, it's quite nuanced to the campaign and the criteria that we're going to want for the campaign. But the very first thing is, again, checking the website, the content that they're publishing, all that kind of thing, and then diving into the backlink profile. Ahrefs, one link per domain, and then trying to see, especially sorting by DR, trying to see if they've got loads of negative SEO, redirects, see if they've got good quality links that are actually powering the equity of the website. A lot of, with guest posts, unless you're doing heavy internal linking, tier twos, that kind of thing, most of the equity is coming from the root authority. So you want the link profile of that domain to have a strong enough root authority going to it. So you want strong homepage links, strong high DR, high traffic links that are referring to the site. Do you believe it's unhealthy to buy links outside of your website's core geo? Definitely not. It happens all the time, right? Like how many times do European businesses do business with other European countries that don't speak the same language? Happens every day, day in, day out, every single minute, right? It's very, very organic for even newspapers, for example, publishers, bloggers to get links from other geos that are referencing them. Even in SEO, I constantly actually get the Japanese and Chinese communities rewriting my courses and blog posts into Japanese and Chinese for their audiences, which I find amazing all the time. People spend hours going through some of my videos and like transcribing word for word and things. I think it's absolutely crazy. So it's definitely not unnatural. I would just obviously focus on your geo and not offset it too much. If you're building 100 links and 90 of them are a geo and 10 are diversified geos, totally fine, right? Does traffic have to be relevant in link building? No, it doesn't have to be traffic. It doesn't have to be traffic. It doesn't have to be relevant. It's mostly about the axis, right? How authoritative it is versus how relevant it is. The more authoritative, the less relevant. And the less authoritative, the more relevant it needs to be. And you want to, again, try and be in that middle point or higher on either side of the axis to be more relevant or more authoritative. But generally speaking, you still want to have some kind of middle ground between the two. So you can't have a completely irrelevant page unless it's got serious equity and serious power behind it that is going to send good enough quality signals for most of these competitive niches. More Life asks, would you recommend getting .com US links and English content pushing sites DR/UF websites that are located in Germany? If so, how would you distribute them into the link plan? 100%. Again, it's fairly natural for sites to get them. I would just be fairly specific. So I would try and find the most powerful sites that you can get your hands on, right? The highest authority, the highest level publishers, that kind of thing. Or I'd find US sites that publish in that same language. So as an example, a lot of sites in the US publish in Spanish still, right? Because about 40% of the US speak Spanish, 36% of the US speak Spanish. That means a large portion of US websites publish their content in Spanish as well as English. So a lot of the time you can go and get some amazing links for Mexico, for Spain, for other Spanish-speaking countries that are based in the US that have actually got a lot of the time higher DR, higher authority than any of the geo-specific countries, and get them to link back to you. And because they're speaking the same language, all great. However, if they're not speaking the same language, we do often still use German or other language anchor text in English content, and it still works. You just want to be few and far between and try and make sure that you're getting the most powerful, most authoritative websites. Do you have SERP analysis example on how to select links, video, blog, or can you expand that point? SERP analysis video, I do actually. I'm pretty sure if you go to YouTube and just put in Charles SEO audit, it's going to come up with a travel blog SEO audit. And I've got a ton of evaluation criteria in there. It's just the entire video is about 20 odd minutes because I evaluate everything. And it's the exact same process basically for evaluating websites as well. Andrew asks, you want to rank and be competitive in the SERPs. Oh, sorry. All right. Yeah. Does this apply to internal links? Right. I actually answered that one already. Sorry. Sam asks, what about the guest posts? what about the SEOs are talking about? So, okay, that one doesn't make sense. Sorry. Ryan asks, what does premium indexing a link mean? So premium indexing is using a premium indexing service. So there are premium indexing services like Indexceptional, Index Me Now, things like that, where you basically pay for credits and they'll use various technologies, APIs, social shares, link building, pinging, all sorts of things to get your link indexed. And it's basically forcing a link to get indexed versus letting it naturally index in the SERPs. Ryan asks, what are pillow links? Pillow links are kind of what they say on the tin, right? They're supposed to be links that act as like a pillow between you and Google and kind of soften the blow and allow you to build links that are maybe a little bit more risky because you've got these pillow links that are kind of trusted sites and validating your website a bit more and allowing you to have some dodgier links pointed at your site if you didn't have those links than if you didn't have those links in place. Is there a tool to use some of the sites publish frequency to see how many and what articles they've posted? Yes, go to their sitemap. Just immediately go to /sitemap.xml. If it doesn't come up, go to /sitemap_index.xml. And essentially just look at how many new posts have gone live in the last week or last month or something like that, right? You might need to go to post sitemap X, it might be post sitemap 4 or something like that to get the most recent post sitemaps. It's going to be the newest letter or newest number variant of the sitemap for that post sitemap, because some of them are limited to like 100 or 1,000 posts per sitemap. And if you've got 10,000 posts, you're going to have at least 10 sitemaps on the 10 post sitemaps on these sites. But that's the easiest way to check publishing frequency. What tool do you use to diversify anchor text? To diversify anchor text, it's all about making sure that we're building the correct different anchors for the page. So we generally use keyword research in our anchor text diversification, right? So we're trying to find all the keywords that are relevant to a page and that this page should rank for. And then we're prioritizing those by competitiveness. And then we're going down the list of trying to get them to link to our page. Also bear in mind that it's still relevant to analysis and if that page can take links and all that kind of thing as well. Josh asks, is GSA, SER, rank correct links useful for a local business ad network sites? I don't use any automated link building at all anymore. The only automated link building we use in-house is for tier 3 and beyond links. And that's generally to get tier 2 links indexed, right? Or, we're using it for like Parasite SEO and things like that. But in general, we don't use any automated link building software at all. So I wouldn't even know if any of those are really that good anymore. Craig Campbell is probably the person to ask about that kind of stuff. Hi, Charles. Josh asks, thanks for taking the time to this webinar. I'm currently doing SEO for a local business with no money for links. I'm willing to invest myself as their close family friend on the ball for reviews. Okay, honestly, don't use automated links. Just use yourself. Do manual link building. Go and sign up for every citation, every profile. Make sure the consensus is amazing. You've got the logo in place, the name, address, phone number. Go and start building a Medium blog for your site, LinkedIn post articles. Start generating YouTube videos with description links to your content. Start generating blog posts and then outreaching to other sites to do broken link building and finding relevant pages and stuff, right? If you have time on your side, but you don't have budget, just put all of that time into real quality efforts to build up the entity and to build the authority in Google. And in general, there's tons of free link sources out there. If you go to the PressWhizz blog, I have a blog post on the top 100 sites you can immediately go and build links from that are free to build from, right? So Josh also asks, what's the minimum investment needed in terms of buying links to build a site that solely generates revenue from ad networks, and recommending niches to accomplish this? In general, for ad networks and things like that, if you don't know your RPM, so you don't know the potential earnings you can make from your website, I wouldn't build any links in it. I would get the data first. I would start ranking that website with entity stacking and content first. Figure out your RPM for that niche. If it's $10 versus $100 and you have the potential to get this much traffic, right? Then you're going to know how much the potential site has to earn versus how much you can spend to grow it to that position, right? Alex asks, is PressWhizz safe? What if Google accesses PressWhizz and sees the inventory of guest posts in each edit sites? Will it cause all sites linking to the SEO sites to get penalized? No. So basically, Google does routinely come after link networks. It doesn't come after link marketplaces. So it comes after a private blog network. So if you Google my web actually, no, it's not my rank. It's my web builder or something like that. My rank builder, right, was this old guest post network that blew up. They were making $1 million a month. Google penalized the hell out of them, and all of their clients got destroyed. But that was a PBN. The same happened with SERP, which is a Russian link network where most of the links were on hacked websites. So you could pay like 30 cents for a homepage link per month. But again, it was injected JavaScript hacked links. So Google went after them because of that. And weirdly enough, the owner of SERP is Roman Abramovich, who's like now a sanctioned billionaire or whatever. But in general, Google doesn't tend to go after these sites because the publishers behind them are part of a great ecosystem, and they don't know which pages are paid for and which pages are natural. And if they just blanket hit every site that is linking from those publishers, they're going to hit a lot more real websites that did nothing wrong, that never paid for a link in their lives, or nothing wrong is also dependent on how ethically linked you are to Google as the internet police, like guidelines and things and stuff like that, right? However, they would hit a bunch of sites that never paid for a link in their life in the process of doing that. So they can't physically and can't realistically do it. They can devalue sites. They can make them like neutralize and things like that. But we also have a private inventory that is nearly the same size as the marketplace. And if you log into the marketplace and you haven't ordered in the last month, or if you're a brand new sign up, or if we don't unrestrict your account, then you can only ever see the first page of links anyway. So Google would have to actually pay us money to be able to see the marketplace in the first place. How long are links guaranteed to stay up for? When you go on PressWhizz and you click on offers, it's dependent on the publisher. So we either have a 12-month, 36-month, or lifetime guarantee with the publisher. And it's up to the publisher depending on what criteria they select. I would say about 50% are 12 months, and then the other is 50-50 on 36 months or lifetime, depending on the publisher. And it's also depending on the niche. But when you click offers, it will tell you the guarantee of that link. And about half of them are 12 months, but a lot of them are a lifetime as well. If a guest post website traffic is mostly coming from searches for its domain name, does that mean it's one to avoid? For example, this domain, naturaplug.com, has 10K traffic on HS, but the top keywords are naturaplug.com. And yeah. So yes, it can be a bad signal because there's not necessarily relevancy signals and things going on to other pages on that website. It's purely a brand signal play. So you're not necessarily going to get the full kind of relevancy signals that you would get from a domain that has ranking pages for your niche, right? However, you can still get equity from that site. It doesn't mean it's going to be neutralized. It doesn't mean it's going to be dead. It's just in general going to mean that you're going to buy homepage links, not guest posts, right? And homepage links come with their own level of risk as well anyway. Can you talk about the tier 2 service? I purchased it today. Thank you for purchasing it, number one. Yes, so the tier 2 service is completely different to everybody else's tiered link building service in SEO. So we don't just build tiered links, right? Number one, when you order the guest post, for the tiered link building service to fully take effect, we need that guest post to rank for keywords. So we will, if we're creating the guest post and you've ordered the tier 2 links, we will create the guest post for some cluster variation of keywords in your industry. As an example, very recently, we did a guest post on a recent industry report. And then it was then ranking for that industry report in Google page 1, that guest post was, right? That's the kind of guest post that we're trying to build, because the primary practice that we do for that guest post is we actually get traffic through Google to your guest post. So we rank the guest post on its own accord, and then wherever position it is, position 89, position 56, position 9, whatever it is, we will send real traffic through Google to that page. And that's a huge amount of equity boosting to it. And that allows the tiered links that we're then going to send at it as well to kind of activate and push even more juice through it. On top of that, we also send social signals, which the social signals have traffic as well. So we're layering traffic upon signals, upon links, all to just your guest post. And that guest post, in some cases that we've had, is 1000% more powerful than if we had not done that tiered service on its own. So you can get some insane ROI from using the tiered service. And we're the only ones offering that service right now in terms of traffic, social signals, and links. Still working, pushing guest posts with cloud sites like Wasabi, Bunny, Azure. So yes and no, right? It works for lower competition keywords. It works en masse. It works for things like that. But once you start dealing with real high competitive niches, the link equity that you're getting from those sites, from like a cloud stack and things like that, is just so minimal that you would have rather spent your time, effort, and money building an individual link that will pass more equity than the entire cloud stack would, right? Does disavow still work for negative SEO links? Yes, it does. Unfortunately, disavow takes 30 to 90 days to kick in. So it could take 3 months before those negative links have actually been removed. And in that time frame, whoever the hell was doing the negative SEO to you could be doing more negative SEO, right? That's the real problem, is that if you're aggressive enough with your negative SEO, you can offset the fact that you can only use that disavow tool to get to be credible every 30 to 90 days, right? Otherwise, in that time period, if you're building even more negative links, they're still going to count towards your site. Google does make a lot of toxic links neutralize rather than toxic these days. But if you get toxic links, they're still going to be very damaging to that individual page's rankings. I have problems indexing LinkedIn links. How do you get LinkedIn links indexed? The easiest way, number one, is getting a premium LinkedIn profile, because otherwise they will put a no follow tag, or they will put it in the no index tag, or they'll use no follow to get the page to not index, because there's so much spam going on with LinkedIn posts. Other than that, we use premium indexing, Indexceptional, Index Me Now. They work really, really well. Is it dangerous to use high volume search keywords as anchor text? Tried using the keywords in Ahrefs such as HTRAC price, HTRAC servicing, the ranking instruction tagged. Yes. So again, it depends on what that page can take, right? If all of your competitors don't have links directly to that page, and you've just got to build 6 exact match links with the exact match anchor text as well, then you haven't matched consensus and you're over optimized, and you're going to get a penalty. And a penalty, again, can be algorithmic or manual. And in this case, I'm talking about an algorithmic penalty that we applied to your site because you've over optimized the anchor text on those pages. Is there any training on how to use PressWhizz effectively? So this webinar is the first piece of content that will be going into the new knowledge tab inside of the PressWhizz marketplace. So tomorrow, you should see a brand new tab which says knowledge, and underneath it, it will have upcoming webinars. It'll have video library. It'll have how to use PressWhizz, which is the exact question that you just answered. And it will have conferences. So any conferences we're sponsoring or attending, you will have information there where you can come and actually see us in person as well. But yes, to answer your question, we're going to have a how to use PressWhizz area, which can have full video tutorials on all of the tools, all of the settings, all of the features, how to get the most out of it. Everything's going to be included. Tomorrow, we'll have the knowledge section there. The how to use PressWhizz videos will be up next week. Do you disavow spam marketing that everyone gets? No, right? Google ignores those links. There's the SEO Telegram links. There's all that kind of nonsense and things. Ignore them. Google ignores them. Most of it is just to get SEOs joining a Telegram channel from Ahrefs and things like that. They are pointless. Alex asks, is there a webinar or course material to research and find out the consensus used in Google for a certain niche or website? It's looking at the niche, right? Figuring out what Google matches as a consensus. The other thing that you can do is take the top 10 pages from Google, Control P if you're using Windows, which is going to print, and then print to a PDF on all 10 of those competitor pages, stick them into ChatGPT and ask it to build a consensus on all of those 10 pages. And then ask it to build outliers as well. So pages that have got outline information that might be relevant to your own site. So you want the consensus block, then you want outline information. You want 2 different pieces, and you want summaries of both. And generally speaking, that will give you enough information to know what the summary is. Once you've done that, and if your page still isn't ranking as well as you thought it would, Ahrefs AI content helper is really, really good for increasing consensus after the fact. So you need to have a piece of content already to be able to then get Ahrefs to analyze the SERP and competitors and see what you're missing in terms of consensus. The only problem is the AI content from Ahrefs is really expensive. It's like $2 or $1 or something a credit. And if you're trying to do multiple, 100, 200 pages, it gets pretty expensive pretty quickly. So hopefully they'll make it a bit cheaper after that. I think that's it for all the questions. Thank you to everybody who joined the webinar today. I hope you got a ton of information out of it. I know this is the first webinar that I'll be dropping for PressWhizz, so stay tuned for future webinars over the summer and the winter periods this year. I appreciate all of you joining in once more. You can get a recording of this webinar tomorrow, like I said, in the Knowledge tab, the brand new Knowledge tab that's going to be there live in 24 hours from now, as well as signing up to the next webinar, getting access to how to use PressWhizz videos next week, and a bunch more stuff. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.